Oh, another top chance video, you must be joking. But hey, with so much changing on the Rift at the moment, it's like the weather. It needs constant updating and sometimes the forecast isn't actually what happens. So in today's video, Coach Eeks is going to reveal the 15 best champions to play on the 1123 Rift. And to all of you ADC mains out there, there is more than one in this countdown, let's go. Now as you're scrolling down to smash that subscribe button so you stay up to date with everything to do with the preseason, let me know in the comments who you think is the most giga-busted champion at the moment. And without further ado, let's get into the countdown. So starting off at number 15, we have Ezreal. And this AD carry has really taken off recently because of the new First Strike Keystone. So I know lots of Ezreal players and lower elos are going Conqueror, but here's the thing guys. High elo Ezreal players who go First Strike win over 53% of their games. That's how good this Keystone is. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. You know, landing a Mystic Shot giving you extra gold is nice, but what's even better is using the First Strike proc with your Essence Flux and then your Arcane Shift. And if we just compare the cooldowns to First Strike, which is 25 seconds early on, to your Arcane Shift's cooldown, which goes from 28 seconds all the way down to 16, it's very similar. So each time you have your Arcane Shift, if you can try to time it with your First Strike, it's a great way to get off extra damage and actually get more gold. And another reason why Ezreal is good at the moment is just because lots of items in the game have more HP, because that is what 1123 brought to these items on the Rift. So because you're going Divine Sunderer with that Spellblade passive, it's doing a great amount of damage to champions with a lot of HP, and Ezreal as a result is just a great all-around pick. And for Ezreal as well, you could even consider going Frozen Heart if the enemy team has a lot of lethal tempo keystones. This will reduce their attacks a bit and just make them a lot less relevant. Now lots of us would have thought that AD Assassins would really be the flavor of the patch, but here's the thing guys, they really haven't been. But there is one AD Assassin if you play her in the mid lane who is really enjoying life, especially if you're good, with Challenger Qiyana players boasting a 60% win rate. That is just crazy, and the reason these guys are loving Qiyana in 1123 is because of the Prowler's Claw buff. 100 gold cheaper, the active is dealing more damage, but I do just want to say guys, it's probably more important now to pick Qiyana and these other AD Assassins like Zed and Talon into matchups who you know are not going to make use of the new Crown of the Shattered Queen mythic, because this is going to reduce your damage by 75% to that champion, and some of these champions are on this countdown, and it's just such a broken interaction and such a big cut to Qiyana, so make sure you know in Champ Select that your damage is not going to get mitigated, and you should be sweet. Now next up, we're heading to the top lane, and we have Shen coming in at number 13, and because of the Sunfire Aegis buffs, the armor has gone up, the magic resist has gone up, and it's giving you HP via its mythic passive. Like, this is still costing the same amount of gold, and for these extra stats, it's just too good to pass up on. And if we just think about the top lane meta at the moment, guys, and even other champions who can abuse the new lethal tempo keystone, because this is really important for auto attack champions. So if we think of Jax, Tryndamere, lots of AD carries at the moment are running this as Shen, because your W blocks auto attacks, your value as a result just goes up. Now another blue character is following Shen coming in at number 12. This is Rek'Sai, and even though Rek'Sai's win rate across the board has actually gone down, just like Qiyana when played by the best players in the world, this champion has close to a 60% win rate in the jungle, and just like Qiyana again, that's because Prowler's Core has been buffed. 100 gold cheaper, the active dealing more damage. Who does not want this for Rek'Sai? But another thing as well here guys, the jungle changes have actually benefited Rek'Sai because you are one of the best ganking junglers in the game. Because Scuttlecrab gives less XP, it's like the enemy jungler has less opportunity to get back in the game once you create your lead. So if you can hit level 3 ASAP by going red, Raptors, and then Gromp, or blue, Gromp, red, and then just perma gank, there is a very good chance that you will have a very good game and just carry. But one champion who can probably do a bit more carrying than Rek'Sai, this is Lux in the mid lane. And ever since Riot buffed Lux like 4 times at the end of last season, she's been really strong, but thanks to the new items that have come into the mid lane for ability power champions, and Lux is one of those champions I talked about before who can use the new mythic Crown of the Shattered Queen. So if you do actually get dived on, which is kind of your kryptonite because you are a squishy and mobile mid laner, the Safeguard passive is going to protect you, and it almost acts like a bait for the enemy team diving onto you, because then you can land an easy light binding because they'll be right in front of you, and then combo them with your buffed abilities. And one more thing that's really good for Lux as well guys is the fact that you can run First Strike as your keystone, and I would really recommend this if you're into a short range matchup. So when you know you can damage the enemy champion with your passive and maybe multiple abilities, this is the rune you want to run. But if you're against a champion with a bit more range than a Yasuo or a Zed for example, running Comet is going to help you in the poke department. But either or, just pick Lux in 1123 and you give yourself a great chance of winning. Now into the top 10 we go guys, and starting this off we have Rammus, who I haven't mentioned for ages, and I'm kind of glad about this. Brings a bit of diversity to the Rift, and there are 2 major reasons as to why Rammus has become really good. Now the first of these, just like I mentioned for Rek'Sai, the new jungle, because there is less pressure on you getting Scuttlecrabs and actually farming, which isn't really Rammus's strong point. As long as you get to level 3 first, then you can go ahead and gank lanes. And because you're one of the best gankers in the game, you can bet your GameLeap subscription that you will get multiple kills and assists in the early game. But what's also great for Rammus guys is is the new Turbo Chem Tech. Now, it's not giving you the Immolate passive, so in terms of clearing camps, it's going to be an even bigger weakness. But who needs clear speed when you can 100% kill people when you have your refuel stacked? This is pretty much like a Dead Man's Plate auto attack, just AoE. And it's also really easy to get multiple refuel auto attacks off in teamfights because of the movement speed from your Q and Ghost, and because of these things, Rammus is just in a really strong spot. But one champion who's even better than Rammus, this is the second AD carry of this countdown, and this is Jinx with the new lethal tempo. Let's go. So why does the new lethal tempo work on Jinx? Well, if we think about it, auto attacks are a massive part of your kit. So if you can gain attack speed for each auto attack you throw out, but then once you get to 6 auto attacks, you get extra range. Are you serious? For a champion like Jinx who can even get movement speed from her passive and range from her fish bones, this allows you to always stay in contact with the enemy team. In the mid to late game and in those team fights, this has a huge impact on you being able to deal so much damage, and even in the laning phase, this just makes you a lot stronger and almost like a lane bully. But one champion a lot of these other champions on the countdown are going to struggle to bully in 1123, this is Victor in the mid or top lane. And I'm really talking about Victor here, guys, with First Strike, so the new keystone. Because as Victor, it should be really easy to actually make use of this keystone, because your death rate gives you insane range, so you can always get the First Strike off on the enemy champion and just get yourself free gold. And for a scaler like Victor, it allows you to get to the Crown of the Shattered Queen mythic spike for pretty much free, and at this point, it is all but over for the enemy champions. The passive, just like it works on Lux, is super good on Victor because you are a ranged champion, and it makes you pretty much impossible to kill. And following Crown of the Shattered Queen up with the new Cosmic Drive, which is pretty much giving you a phase rush passive, which is really easy to keep going because of your ultimate's tick damage and your low cooldowns. And then you can follow this up with the new Shadow Flame item, which is giving you 100 AP, a bit of HP, and also a passive which is giving you magic penetration based off the enemy champion's recent shielding and also their current HP, so it gives you a bit of an execute. And this will pair really well with your sorcerer shoots. And of course, you can follow this up with Zhonya's Hourglass, Death Cap, Void Staff, which is giving you more magic penetration this patch. It's just an all-around great change for Victor, and this is why his win rate overall as well, this isn't just in high reloads, is like 54%. Now, speaking of good win rates, let's head to the bot lane again and talk about the first support of this countdown, and this is Blitzcrank. Now, the reason Blitzcrank, guys, is on this countdown is simply because he's such a good counter to some of the best supports at the moment who we are going to soon reveal. But not only that, Blitzcrank, funnily enough, is one of the best users of the new Glacial Augment Keystone, because this procs off your hook and your E. So when I pull this dummy here with my right hand, you can see that as soon as my hand hits that dummy, the Glacial Rays will emanate from that target's original location. So any enemy champions around them are going to get slowed, and this makes it really hard for that teammate's support to actually back them up. This is also really good for your own teammates because it just makes the enemy team so much more vulnerable. And Blitzcranks at the moment are also making use of the new Evan Shroud mythic. So it's giving you exactly the same stats as Locket of the Iron Solari, but the unique thing about this mythic is the passive. So enemy champions you immobilize. So with your pull or with your knockup, these champions are going to take increased damage from your teammates. And for a champion like Blitzcrank, who is all about picking these champions off with burst damage, this is just the perfect item for it. But beating Blitzcrank to number 6, guys, we're heading back to the top lane and we're going to talk about Dr. Mundo. And this champion with the new Frostfire Gauntlet, which is giving you AoE magic damage on your auto attacks, this is just beyond broken at the moment, and Mundo actually has the best win rate in the entire game across all elos because of this interaction. And that is honestly like the only thing that's separating Mundo from pretty much everyone else. Just how broken his interactions are and his fighting potential with the new Frostfire Gauntlet. So Mundo has really become that immovable object in the top lane. But one champion who is actually one of the best champs in 2 roles, so in the top lane and in the jungle, this is Trundle coming in at number 5. Now, if you're playing Trundle in the top lane, you are making use of the new lethal tempo keystone, because this is giving you attack speed and then range and max stacks. And for a champion like Trundle who can proc this with his Q as well, like who is actually going to beat you in a 1v1 straight up? There's no one. Maybe until the mid and late game, and we'll talk about one of these champions very soon. But in the early game, you are for sure the scariest level 1, level 2, level 3 champion because you just cannot be beaten. And Trundle is also really good because he can go Divine Sundra, and because more champions have HP in this patch, Divine Sundra just becomes even better. But if you're playing Trundle in the jungle, make sure you change this keystone to press the attack, because in the top lane, fights for the most part are going to be extended. In the jungle, you might gank lanes who are really squishy, you might gank ranged champions, so really the burst and quick damage from PTA is just going to be more useful, but your build is pretty much exactly the same. Now, one champion who is boasting one of the best win rates in 1123 is Kale, with the new lethal tempo. Even though you might give up even more of the early game by not going press the attack and you open yourself up to damage and maybe deaths, the scaling you now have with lethal tempo and the extra range it gives you, it is beyond belief. Now, there is a bit of a bug at the moment, so your waves from your passive and E don't actually deal the damage they should do when you have the extra range from lethal tempo. This is getting bug fixed next patch, but still, with the quick stacking attack speed, it's still a great rune, and just the fact that Nash's Tooth, Riftmaker, these are still really good items generally speaking, and Kayle is once again one of the strongest champions on the Rift. But moving into the top 3 guys, starting us off, we actually have 3 champions, so how does this work? Well, these are 3 spellcasting supports who are kind of the same, in that they really excel at keeping their AD carry alive and peeling them and healing them and shielding them, and these are Sona, Soraka, and Lulu. So because the new lethal tempo is really defining what's being played in the bot lane, so if you think of auto-attack AD carries like Jinx and Ashe and Kog'Maw, these AD carries just love when their support is standing next to them and healing them, shielding them, and just empowering them. And it makes it really hard for these assassins who technically are stronger because of Prowler's Claw, Duskblade Eclipse, these have all been buffed to actually be an assassin. So these 3 champions come in at number 3, but they are beaten to the number 2 spot by just 1 champion, and this is Camille. And I don't think I need to get into that much detail here, because Camille with Divine Sunder, like, who is going to argue this? You could even put her at number 1 and I'd be completely fine with that. But to be honest, I actually think this number 1 champion is even better than Camille, and this is because of Vayne with the new lethal tempo is just dominating the Rift in every single elo as well. Like, this champion is meant to be a skill-based champion, but to be honest, I don't really see the skill involved when you can stack lethal tempo pretty easily. And because you were a short-range AD carry, because of the new lethal tempo and the extra range it gives you in max stacks, this means you pretty much have no weaknesses. And because tanks are back on the menu, think about Vayne, one of the best tank shredding champions, if not the best tank shredder on the entire Rift. So Vayne is the first AD carry in God knows how long who is the number 1 champion to play on League of Legends. And those are the 15 updated best champions, guys, for 11.23. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you did enjoy the video, leave a like down below, and also make sure to check out the GameLeap website on your way out, linked in the description and comment section. Our challenger players and coaches are uploading up to 20 videos a week to help you improve and reach your potential, so get signed up, get that exclusive access, and until tomorrow's daily 11.23 upload, this has been the